Welcome back, everybody, into Bills Chat, our first post game of the season. The Bills defeat the Ravens by a score of 42-40,
41 to
and
40.
Luka 41-40. Excuse me, I don't even have the score up. It's right in front of me too on ESPN. The game ended 10 minutes ago. Luka, this is my thought. My very first thought I had about this game. This is the greatest regular season game I've ever seen, not just including the Bills.
Mhm.
But when you factor in everything, the fact that it's the last opener in this stadium, the fact that you have two quarterbacks who are going to wear gold jackets some days playing at the absolute tippy top of their game, the stakes that this game has in the conference for what we all know these two teams are going to be as they jockey for position in the AFC playoffs, the rivalry that has grown between these two teams and these two quarterbacks, although it is a friendly rivalry, everything included, the best regular season game I've ever seen. Not even sure I can come up with a second one.
I I'm I'm trying to come up with one really quick on my head because I'm for full transparency to anyone listening. We normally talk before we then record. It's not like we have an outline or anything like that, but we start to get in each other's vibe.
Mhm.
We both agreed as soon as we sat down. I had friends just leave after the game that had to decompress in my family room. And it was like sit down, and both of us agreed, let's just go. So didn't even know where you're leading off. And I love it because genuinely I'm with you. It's hard to grasp just that was, you hear the cliche sometimes, even it's a playoff like atmosphere, and those are generally reserved for like the week 9, week 12 games, like the Kansas City Bills game that is coming down the line and things like that. That was as playoffy of a game possible,
Mhm.
especially considering it's week 1 and leading into it, which I still full-heartedly agree. We lose that game, I would be disappointed with what happened. We'd go into it, but I would always be reinforcing it's a week 1 game. Coming
Mhm.
out of that, I'm still actually like trying to rein myself down now, being like, it's a week 1 game because that felt like the divisional game all over again, not necessarily because of how it played out, but because of just what the magnitude of everything felt, especially how that fourth quarter all took place from both teams, what was going on, the absolute roller coaster of everything taking place. It truly was, as a football fan,
Mhm.
one of the greatest regular season games you could possibly. If the NFL wanted to sell the sport internationally and
Boom.
they wanted to do anything with growing the reach, you do whatever you got to do to get
Mhm.
this entire game out to the people. This is like for anyone out there do you want an entertainment product that's a really good sport and fun to watch that can provide all the drama in the world and present you some of the greatest athletes we have to present? Here you go. And it truly, and that I make sure I say greatest athlete, Josh, because the Bills have Josh Allen. They have some guys themselves, and we'll talk about others that stepped up. But even on that other sideline, I mean, the Bills saw for what 45 minutes of pure dominance of
Mhm.
two athletes, Lamar and Derrick Henry, who were just imposing their will however they please. And then on top of it, whenever it wasn't time to go to them, you have another great sneaky athlete who wasn't present for the last time these two played, Zay Flowers, making his presence known and showing his athleticism, which I was even sitting in the family room, not to be negative, but I was like, man, it'd be nice to have one dynamic guy as a receiver like that. It feels different, but lo and behold, it really helps when you got 17 that can just elevate all the people for you. That game just Bills cap off everything like that. That game was special. Like it's so weird for a week 1 game to feel like that, but holy shit. Like it had anything and everything you could possibly ask for. It truly, I mean, Josh, let me just, well, we want to keep going. Football Sundays are back. And I
They
mean,
are so back.
they are so back. This is what a feeling, what a vibe. I mean,
Mhm.
my favorite moments, just to get it out of the way, because it won't be anything we talk about, were just when finally the Bills bring it inside the 30 and they're cutting to Lamar and Derrick Henry. It's not blank stares you're seeing. It's not like disbelief. Lamar at one point looked like he had a very subtle smirk because it even felt like he was enjoying what the hell was going on. He doesn't want to lose. And that's not what I'm saying. He's enjoying the loss. That seems like it's inevitable at that point. It almost felt though, they're just like, they were in disbelief in the most positive way possible, even out being on the losing side, because the game just was an unbelievable product of entertainment, and just you cannot script anything that took place tonight. Anything. And it's what a game. I'll kick it back to you because I just don't want to take time.
One of the things that made this game what it was is the atmosphere. Being in Buffalo, because some of the games I thought of, like, best regular season games of all time. There was a Chiefs-Rams game, McVay's maybe second year, Mahomes' first year starting. Goff and Mahomes, like, it was no punts. It was just like 50-40. I don't remember the final score, but what I think hurts that game that doesn't put it on this level, and I don't want this to be taken any other way than this is just honestly how I feel. It was in a neutral stadium. And that just takes away some of what we had tonight, because tonight you heard both fan bases in full roar. Every time Lamar made an incredible play, and we're going to get into some of those, you heard the MVP chants. And this stadium went bananas when Keon Coleman makes that catch and gets down the sideline, when Josh Palmer makes that catch. So I think that, and then there was a Colts Patriots game where Belichick went for it on fourth down, like in his own end, just because he was like, we can't stop these guys, which, funny enough, Luka, I think Harbaugh should have done that. If I'm the Ravens at the end of the game, this is where I want to start. We're going to spend all episode talking about the Bills. We're going to spend all season talking about the Bills. I want you to spend the next 5-6 minutes analyzing it from a Ravens point of view.
Beautiful.
You are in the exact same situation as the Bills. You are trying to get through and win the AFC. The last 2 years, you've seen your team lose on a drop pass to Mark Andrews. We know there was more game to be played. The Bills were still in a good spot, and losing a home AFC championship game the year before to the Chiefs. You come out, you could not look better for the first 3 quarters of this game. You get an amazing Superman Lamar Jackson conversion on third down, where he makes Greg Rousseau and Joey Bosa look silly in the backfield, a la Justin Jefferson making Cam Lewis look silly on that one-on-one deep ball. That's a Hall of Fame player. He made us look silly. What are you going to do? And then on the next play, another Hall of Fame player runs right through the defense and gets in the end zone.
Yeah.
The Ravens had a 15-point lead, Luka, with 4 minutes to go, and lost this game in overtime. You and I can sit here as Bills fans and say, holy cow, that team is a force. If we play this team again in the playoffs, it's going to be every bit as sweaty and dangerous as this game was. If you have a Ravens mindset, do you start feeling snake bit? Do you start feeling like, man, there's a gray cloud over your head? Your team just can't, for whatever reason, win these games.
No. The Ravens, I feel like my takeaway, especially from a Ravens cap, and that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a Ravens fan for anyone watching. I'm covering
Ravens analyzer for now.
Yeah. You just put together, I mean, I'm going to call it essentially 56. I mean, even 58 minutes, like even to the one that brings it back to a 1-score game. You defended the 2-point conversion, which, mind you, I have questions on that decision.
And this show would have been a lot more entertaining if they lost, folks. You would have gotten rage, Josh, by the way. I'm just telling you now.
I had mentally a list of probably 12 things that decisions wise that I was going to absolutely rage on. But anyways, I digress. Ravens perspective, you did everything, even leading up to that. You defend the 2-point play call that the Bills decide with. You have a 2-point lead. And as you're bringing up here, you conservatively so and absolutely appropriately, I actually, for Ravens perspective, love the decision of those 3 play calls. They are high percentage plays, more in regard to the third down, pass play and stuff. That was also very high percentage. That also created 3 different looks. You weren't just run up the middle, which understandably with Derrick Henry would also be kind of not a bad decision. But I love even trying to get discipline and screw up. Maybe there's just an absolute pinch assignment on the defense and you have that run in motion for Zay Flowers. It gets caught, but then even Zay Flowers has the presence of mind to get down. Don't even allow Milano or anyone else that's actually keeping up with him to have the ability to toss him to the sideline and get a free timeout, essentially, or a free stoppage of the clock. Everything to that point was great. Now, as you bring up, it's 4th and 2, 4th and 3, whatever it was. Maybe it was a 4th and long and 2, whatever. And the commentators are even discussing, do you go for this because even your defense hasn't felt like it's been able to stop the Bills' offense? I understand exactly what you're saying, Josh. And there is even a thought that you don't get that, but it's such a short field that it's going to be even harder for the Bills with no timeouts to score with leaving no time left. Like you're leaving too short of a field in a weird way. So I can subscribe to that. But what I love is the Ravens and Harbaugh understand how good their defense is. And they just unfortunately got bit by the best quarterback in this league being in this zone that was just that throw to Josh Palmer is just world class. Lamar does not make that throw, no disrespect. Mahomes can probably make that throw. Burrow can probably make that throw. But outside of those two individuals, anyone else is just hoping and praying that that throw hits that window.
The
And
look
even though,
on Jair Alexander's face after
yeah,
the play, you almost felt bad for him because he did everything right.
Josh Allen's hitting a window that's essentially like this and getting it to drop exactly where it needs to go.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look that way when you just look at it but that is truly the window he needs to hit for it to fall where it needs to go and allow Palmer to continue moving in the direction that he is. Because that's the only way Palmer's comfortably catching that ball. And he absolutely ropes it there. The Ravens did everything right, and I don't even fault for the punt. And if I am a Ravens fan, and if I'm talking to Ravens fans, if I'm coming at it from this perspective, like you've asked, I truly do not walk away from that game anything with a simple, Josh Allen just caught fire exactly at the right time. Like, no more room for error. You can't screw up, and you even got your little bit of help thanks to number 91, and it was like boom, like all systems go, firing, and there's just nothing you can do about that. That's you are now caught in quicksand. There's just external things that are affecting what you can do, even though you're doing all the right things that are just bringing you down. And that's nothing you can take against. They're going to be disappointed. The Ravens team themselves are going to feel like they really let an opportunity slip, of course. But if you're a Ravens player and you're a Ravens fan, you walk away from that game, Josh, fully understanding you two are meeting again. Like that, there is no one is stopping the Ravens and no one is stopping the Bills. These two teams, when you see what just took place, are not being, even the Chiefs right now have a billion more question marks than these two teams. And these two teams have question marks, obviously. But I mean, there is levels to this shit. And these two teams are well above everyone else right now. It is insane. So Ravens should not feel like there's a dark cloud. Feel like the Bills do with the Chiefs, right? In the playoffs. They shouldn't feel that way following this game. This shouldn't be that thing that makes them feel that way. This should feel like, look, we unfortunately got bit by the fire that was across from us wearing a 17 jersey. But ultimately it's like, we'll be back. This probably dictated where the rematch is going to be taking place. So unfortunately, they're going to be coming back here when it's a lot colder, and Lamar's not going to be a fan of that. But I mean, holy shit. Just two juggernauts that one had to win, Josh. One had to win.
So much from this game, nobody's going to remember the Josh Allen throw to Kincaid at the end of the half that gave him 3 extra points. There is so much. These two teams were at their ceiling tonight. And what I mean by that is for the Bills to win a Super Bowl as currently constructed, you and I both firmly believe you need 3 or 4, depending on your seating, Josh Allen A to A plus games to win because this roster is just right now not built with enough A plus talent around him where you can have a Chris Jones or a Xavier Worthy. I did not mean to say Xavier Worthy, excuse me. A Chris Jones, a Trent McDuffie, somebody like that step up. In years past, it was the Honey Badger. Somebody step up and make a clutch play. The Bills have had Taron Johnson do that, yes. But the way this roster is set up, you need Josh Allen to play at his best. You got that tonight. Where the Ravens are just 99 Ramish in their offense is when Derrick Henry is running like that. You have to make a choice. When you bring everybody forward to stop the run, you can still get beat by the Lamar Jackson read option because they are so smooth on it. And then if you decide to just keep Lamar in the pocket, he stands back there and he has Zay Flowers, who is one of the best man beating wide receivers in the league. It is an absolute headache. And by the way, they were playing without Isaiah Likely, who is an absolute matchup nightmare. Now, look, when these two teams play again, it'll be 5 months from now and a lot can change injury wise. We just don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to analyze that. But to Luca's point, the biggest thing is the Bills got it in the win column, and that will probably go a long way in dictating where that game is. Luca, was there a point where you had lost hope? I had. I lost hope after the two-play sequence of Lamar Jackson scrambling for the first down in an amazing Lamar Jackson fashion on 3rd and long, and then Derrick Henry rushing for the touchdown. And then I started to get a glimmer back when the Bills drove down. But then ultimately when they missed that two-point conversion to Keon, which was on the next drive, I was like, okay, well, this isn't gonna end well. But when they got up by 15, I just felt like it's not your night. And that's okay. I was already mentally preparing for you and I had talked on our previous show about if the defense doesn't look good right out of the gate. We have to consider the opponent. We have to consider the fact that they're playing a lot of rookies, including Dorian Strong tonight, who, by the way, played pretty well. And the rookies aren't going to be in September what we need them to be in January. And we have to keep all of that in mind. And this might be the toughest, not might be. This is the worst draw for any defense week 1 when they're fully healthy. You said that on our show. Like, if you want to play the Ravens, week 1 is just a nightmare because they are fully healthy.
Yeah.
I was fully prepared for all that while internally being mad about things like the fade pattern on the 2-point conversion call and just little things like that. Punt or the 2nd and 1, 3rd and 2 punt sequence in the first quarter. Things like that.
Yeah.
I gave up. Not gave up. I thought it was over down 15 with like 5 minutes to go and the Bills got the ball back. Had you ever had your little meter of win probability in your head ever hit 0 like mine did at that point?
Mine hit 0.0001. Let me full transparency. Again, I've said that twice tonight. I hate that. I have been at a game. I've been in the stadium. Been at the stadium that you referenced already in this podcast, ironically enough, the LA Coliseum, for a particular game of football where my team was down 13 with no timeouts and a $1:38 left and won that game thanks to a Hail Mary known as the Jail Mary. Shout out ASU. Not a good weekend for them though. So I never
your weekend because I felt bad for you.
Yes.
Anyway.
So I don't ever go to 0, Josh. After that moment, which is the only game I ever actually walked down a tunnel, fully intended to leave a game. But thankfully, a weird freak touchdown happened that sucked me back in to watch it from a aisle, whatever you call that, an entrance tunnel, and to witness. That was the moment I dictated. I will never, and I mean never, give up on a game again because that statistically should have never happened. So when the sequence, as you referenced, happens, we're down to 1%. Where we got to 0.001% was watching the ensuing drive, 5 plays, 9 yards, which was capped off by a Josh Allen sack for a 5-yard loss and hold on, let me get this number right, 28-yard punt that was downed by Reed Ferguson himself. When you're
I forgot about the punt.
When your long snapper is the man who's comfortably downing a punt, not good. And the vibes are as low as they possibly can be. I mean, Reed Ferguson's face was so bland at that moment. One, forgot what he looks like with his face through a helmet because you don't generally see your long snapper's face through a helmet. And 2, it was just like, yeah, it felt at that moment in time that I even questioned if the Bills really thought they were in this anymore. And luckily, we force a 3 and out, of course, and the rest of the game progresses as it is. The absolute key moment of the game, so on. But to answer your question, yes, we hit 0.001, de facto 0, when that punt, the sack and punt takes place. And it was the sack I bring up too, because it's the only sack given up all game by the Bills. The Bills, as we know, it's been talked about why this offensive line is also regarded as one of the best. They don't give up sacks, and that's obviously a credit both to the offensive line as well as Josh Allen and who he is. So to give up the sack in the manner that they did, which felt, I'm going to call this very pedestrian. It was a classic, like, pockets collapsing. Allen's kind of just standing there accepting it in a way because of how fast it took place and just allowed himself to be wrapped up. He's not really trying to fight to get out of it because it was a dead play. Like, there was just nothing going on. That is, Josh, that is when we hit a low spot. I told the friends that stayed in my house to watch the game, I told them after the fact, Josh, in my head, I was about to turn my head and tell my friends, if they do anything on this drive, feel free to leave early. I won't take offense. And I don't think anyone would feel they're offending by leaving early. It's an understandable thing, so on and so forth. But that thought to say those things were in my head. And then my friend went to a close by bathroom to just, take care of business and everything. And if that moment doesn't happen, I would say those words in this crazy world of life and everything. That feels like obviously a concession to me, where it's like, I have mentally checked out. And I never said those words. And then he also in turn said he almost came out of the bathroom in that same moment and said to me, I'm probably leaving, and like almost left. But we both did not. And that tells you right there, there was just that 0.001% that was like, let's at least see this out. Let's get to the zeros on the clock and see what happens. And boy, thank God we weren't one of the 10,000 or so. I'm just fully guesstimating at this, who left the stadium, Josh, and have to be absolutely kicking themselves as to what it is, because there's even screenshots from an individual that I know in a group chat of people he knew that were at the game that said a boatload of individuals left, understandably, after the Derrick Henry run that you refer to. And it's like, there was a checkout by a lot of fans, and it's, boy, you just missed an absolute gem of a regular season game.
The last home opener that you probably paid an outlandish amount of money to go to. By the way, apparently Josh Allen took a shot at some fans in his post-game interview on NBC that left early. I have not heard it. You and I did not stick around long enough to even listen to Josh Allen post-game because we wanted to just go live and let it roll. Apparently, though, he took a little shot at them, which good. Good. Yeah.
Good.
Like, your job is easy, guys. You sit in a seat. Like, we're out here trying to tackle Derrick Henry. So,
message received, hopefully, by every fan.
I think it's going to go the way of the Houston Oilers comeback game, where as the years go on, people will be like, the more and more people will claim to have been there and claim that they didn't leave early. And it's like, okay, we saw the stadium. You couldn't have all stayed. All right, let's talk about some guys that had some big nights out. Josh Allen, first of all. Holy shit. The story on Josh Allen coming into this game, Luka, was the Ravens were always one of these teams that kind of had his number statistically, even though he does have, 2 playoff wins over them, and he won the MVP last year, and, has had some win-loss success against them. He's never really had the big statistical day. Well, I guess we can throw that out the window now, because Josh Allen had 394 yards passing, had another 30 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 throwing. We are back, baby. Josh Allen doing everything on his own. If you have him in fantasy, shout out to you. Shout out to me. I got him in 2 leagues. I wish I had him in every league. Who on? Let's go here. Here's my question for you. Outside of Josh Allen, who on offense are you leaving this game thinking, maybe we got a little more here than I thought?
Ooh. Because obviously, I'm going to tell you as you were loading this up, and so family group chat, I'm going to chat. My cousin was at the game all the way from Indianapolis, funny enough, and he stayed, just getting that on camera. Anyone watching?
You're on YouTube. Look up.
I was curious. Boy, was I curious if he left, because understandably for him, by the way, he's staying overnight in like the Ohio area and then making it all the way home in the morning. So if watching that game, you'd understand. All right, we got like a 4 or 5, whatever it is, hour drive right now. Like, let's hit this road early. Anyways, I was thinking, as you asked that, I was thinking, of course, you're looking for a non Josh Allen standout, but you're really looking for one that sneaks up on you. I don't think anyone else can sneak up on you more than Jackson Hawes.
Oh, yeah. Even when they showed the name on his back of his jersey, I was like, "Is that Knox or Kincaid?"
I was in dis. My buddy sitting next to me was the one that first, because I initially thought it was Kincaid, because I knew it wasn't an 8 as the second number.
Mhm.
So in my head, I'm like, okay, that was Kincaid. Big moment for Kincaid. Awesome for Kincaid. Blah blah blah. And I was also going to rip him a little bit because he benched Kincaid for Kyle Pitts in fantasy. Hilarious. He would have lost regardless, so it's whatever. But hilarious. And then he goes, "It was Hawes." I'm like, "What?"
It was not. They swapped jerseys.
Like, and then you watch the replay, and it's an impressive catch for being like, like a guy who doesn't catch, like Wiggins in his defense, like plays it perfectly. He hits him right at the point of the ball hitting him in the hands. He's got to basically double clutch it, double catch it, does it perfectly, doesn't let it hit the ground. Holy shit. Like
Right.
someone that comes out of nowhere. He had an impressive game for what his job actually is, first and foremost.
I
I
think
think
the
he did.
snap count's gonna show he played a lot too.
Yes, and I believe everything in that. And I never felt like I looked at and saw 85 whiffing on a block, really screwing things up. I'm curious what will come out afterwards, because it's not like I'm sitting here just staring at 85 during that game at any point. But with individuals like that, you just never want to see them highlighted for errors. You never want to see them highlighted because they whiffed and that's where the blocking broke down or anything got blown up, whatever. So he had a great game there. And then in that moment in time, when 17 in his head calls your number, because he sure as shit ain't doing it out loud, and he hits you where he needs to, and you come down with that ball when it is not in your initial job description to do so, that's showing up and doing extra credit for work. That's what that is right there. And this feels like the perfect moment in this episode just to give a little dap to a rook that
Yeah.
came out of nowhere and did something, to your question, did
Man.
something very surprising in a big moment, and now has me even more excited about this number 85 blocking tight end being a integral part, Josh, of this offense. Who would have thought?
That's a great point, and just tying in the rookie piece of it too, because I remember going back to training camp, and we weren't there, but hearing people like Joe Marino and Anthony Prohaska cover one, and Joe Biscaglia and Matt Perino just being like, "This kid is like high level NFL level blocker. He's not like, hey, he's an impressive blocker for a rookie." It's like, no, 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 no. Like he's out there running wham, and he's out there doing things that he looks like Lee Smith out there. And I went to the first preseason game with my daughter, and I'm just thinking, man, if he's that good of a blocker, I mean, the Cardinals took one last year who's a dynamic blocker. I think
Yeah.
Raymond is his name.
Yeah. Tip Raymond. Yeah.
And it's like, if he can just like do anything offensively, how did he fall to day 3? And it's like they threw a pass to the flat right through his hands. And I'm like, oh, I get it.
Got it.
So for say less. Yeah. And he did that again in preseason. And then game on the line against Nate frickin' Wiggins, and he just comes up with an incredible catch. And what a moment. And I do think that as we kind of decompress from this game, the rookies are going to be a story. I do think Dorian Strong held up well. He had the penalty in the first part of the game, but I don't remember him being out of position. And boy, you want to talk about an offense that can get you out of position. It's these Ravens. I mean, the Christian Benford comparisons are just going to be there, but
Yeah.
that's the best thing about Benford is he's always in the right spot. Like he may not have freakish Tariq Woolen athleticism, but
Yeah.
he's just steady Eddie, always in the right spot. And then when you look at, I think TJ Sanders, especially early in this game, you saw some juice from his pass rush.
Mhm.
I am interested in going back and kind of like seeing how the rookies played down the line. Landon Jackson was inactive for this game. Max Harrison still on IR. But when you start looking at some of the names, and then Hawes and Dorian Strong, and boy, there were some plays mid-game where you're just like, is there anybody else that can play safety? Anybody? Maybe somebody in the stands. But yeah, I do think some of the young guys had a good game. My answer would have been Keon Coleman.
Yeah,
Admittedly,
fair.
Luca, I have like this ceiling in my head for Keon Coleman where when the Bills get to where I want them to get to offensively, weapon wise, Keon Coleman will be the T. Higgins of this offense. The Jamar Chase has yet to show, but he will be the guy that you have to cover one-on-one because what we have on the other side is too good. And good luck covering him one-on-one. That to me is his ceiling. What I saw tonight makes me think that maybe I have undersold him. And understand, I think T. Higgins on most teams would be a number 1, so maybe that's not a great comparison. It's just more about, like, who he is in that offense. I think Keon Coleman maybe has a higher ceiling than that. He's faster than his 40 time. We know that. Like, his playing speed is faster than his 40 time. His body control is out of this world. He has very good hands, and for being a guy that is not a blazer, his run after catch instincts are right up there with running backs. He's got like Debo Samuel run after catch instincts. He was a punt returner in college for a reason. So you saw a lot of that tonight, and then there's just a dog in his games that the way he plays, and it's such a lazy term to use, but that's what I loved about him in college is he is just a dog, and Josh Allen went to him time and time again in important situations. And I'm just now thinking about that tipped ball that went for a touchdown, which what if that didn't happen?
Yeah.
I mean, holy cow. Like so many what ifs in this game, but Keon Coleman's the one I'm thinking of. How mad, Luca, would we have been, or are we, at the defense? I guess it's still, I mean, they did give up 40 points. They did give up 40 points. What do we do with the defense after this game against that opponent in game one? Are we holy cow, they haven't gotten a lot better because any better despite all the resources, or are we? It's week one. It's the Ravens. It's a bunch of rookies. Let's breathe. Where are you at?
There's subtle concern, and winning definitely helps the overreaction feel of that. Twofold, fivefold, a lot. I made a comment probably north of 10 for sure. Just out loud, not trying to have a conversation about it. Just like play happens, immediate reaction. What are the words out of my mouth? These are the things I kept saying. And it was all those resources to the defensive line. All those resources to the defensive line. And like you're not watching a running back, for instance, get up, get a little stuffed, but somehow edge contain is just terrible. And he's able to just one cut outside and fly, whatever it is. Like what we saw a few years ago against the Dolphins in that Saturday night game that we won, where it was just like that one edge was just, it was open for the taking whenever they wanted it. And then they just decided not to at one point in time. This was, you're getting gutted by a linebacker playing running back, but you're getting gutted. And it's your linebackers are just, holy shit, do they know what run fits are? And then on top of it, Taylor Rapp, sometimes, man, like, can you just be a safety instead of just flying in where you think you should be? Like, be the last man of defense because you are a good tackler. Just be somewhere where you can make that tackle sometimes a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I felt terrible for Cole Bishop on that first Derrick Henry touchdown. Terrible for him.
Mm-hmm.
He should not be the last man of defense at the snap of that ball. He should not be the one that has Derrick Henry, who, all respect to Derrick Henry, could have absolutely slammed him and just kind of gave him like a from wrist forward shrug, like, you're not getting me, kid. Like, dude, he made the best effort he possibly could in that play to even do something. And I felt bad that Chris Collinsworth called him out at one point, not like harshly, but just brings up his name, and they're bringing up the highlight of what it's a stiff arm regardless, but bring it. And it's like, dude, there are 3 people I probably count during that. Milano for sure. Rapp, I'd say he just played over edge on his fit, and it was just like, why? And then someone else. And it was just like, these are the guys who screwed up. Like, these are the ones. Why is Cole Bishop? I don't understand if it's just a personnel thing, true, like just solely personnel, or if it also just comes down to coaching of like, there's just no emphasis to run fit because, we're going to put up enough points that eventually they're just going to have to start opening up the pass or whatever. It's like, these guys look like they don't know how to defend the run at times. And then you're cascading it down with it's week 1 against, and it wasn't even a full strength Ravens. They didn't have their sledgehammer at fullback. Like, imagine if they had him in there. If Patrick Ricard was in there, I don't think we even keep it within 15 points. Like, we probably, and there's moments where they were passing it, and I'm like, if Patrick Ricard's healthy, Lamar's not throwing another pass for this game. Like, they know they can do whatever they want. because they at one point they had a fullback in who looked like a string bean tight end, and I was like, who is in at fullback right now? It's not Patrick Ricard, I can tell you that. So that little thing right there, that little detail, thank God. But you outside of Ricard, you still have them at the health of everything, and to have as such a poor run defense for all the reasons, and then also be playing the Ravens, it's like just getting exploited in all the worst ways possible. And it's you just put on tape for everyone else. How can we run down the throat of the Bills? Because that is the path to success. The Bills are not going to be able to replicate this comeback every week. Like it won't work. So other teams are probably going to be watching that like hawks and figuring out how they can do that. Like the Jets are up next, Josh. And I guarantee they are going to be studying that to a T, and they're going to be figuring out how they can replicate that with Fields and Brees Hall and Braylon Allen. I mean, they are not Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, but they're going to do their damnedest to try to replicate that kind of success, because they also have a decent enough defense that if push comes, although again, who would have thought the second highest scoring game, by the way, would have been Steelers Jets today. So football's back. The point about defense that you're asking, and is this a concern? It's a bit of a concern only because it was just too damn easy. The Ravens did something that they did in the playoff game, just like the Dolphins would do back when they were actually decent. It's like they all of a sudden just stop like you're overcomplicating the game. Just keep handing the damn ball off. You will win this game. Like Derrick Henry could have 200 plus 250. Like, I mean, it felt unstoppable, and then they just kind of pulled it out a drive. Then they tried to go back to it, but luckily the Bills are actually putting every resource possible to stopping it now because it feels inevitable. Yeah, you can't succeed that way, and this defense needs to figure it out. But to wrap up the point, Josh, and I don't mean it because Taylor Rapp's getting called out here, but those are the wins that coaches, or these are the performances and the wins that coaches love the most. Because they can go in, they'd be like, great win, guys. Good team win. We have a lot to discuss on Monday. You're not getting Monday, Tuesday. You're not getting off. There's enough tape out there that it's like, we got to correct this. We got to do better here.
Oh,
we got
yeah.
to do this. Like, there's a lot to figure out. So thank God the Bills won it with everything considering that defense.
My buddy Brendan, who's an avid listener of the podcast, texted me during the game and said, the Ravens are doing the Bills a favor every time they take Derrick Henry off the field. And I do agree with what he's saying. I mean, we know why they do it. Justice Hill is the receiving back, but 100% agree. When you take Derrick Henry off the field, you take that pick a door and, they're going to kill you with the other door option out of it. Like now you can just play the pass. And man, when it's Justice Hill against the Ravens, I'm on the mindset of just blitz everybody and play man across the board and just hope you get there. Maybe don't blitz them from like the other side of the stadium like they did with Cole Bishop on that one play. Holy cow.
Such an insane.
That has to be a miscommunication. So Luka has mentioned that we didn't do our normal chat before the game. And a lot of times what we say, I consider that our safe space. Like a lot of times we're kind of wound up and we kind of get our thoughts out there and we'll reel each other in. Like I'll say something crazy, like, I don't know, man, I'm so done with Bobby Babbage, whatever. And Luka's like, dude, relax. That's like it's a November game against the Jets. We'll be okay. It's not the end of the world. Whatever. You said something in our safe space last year that I'm going to reveal to the world because now I'm thinking it in the real space. After the Ravens playoff game that the Bills won, you made a comment that I was like, I don't know if you want to say that on the air. You were like, I'm about done with Terrell Bernard. Can I get back to having a 6'5", 260-pound Tremaine Edmonds at linebacker? I don't think you mean that you miss Terrell Bernard or miss Tremaine Edmonds every week, but there is something about playing these Ravens, the way that they are built, where I do not need to see Terrell Bernard on the field. He looks so small, and I found myself missing Tremaine Edmonds a lot today, and that does not happen a lot since he left, and I don't think he's a great player, but boy, oh boy, in this matchup, Luka, against this team, our undersized linebacker who now has a single-digit uniform number, making him look even smaller, it's washed away so easily. And to me, I think the all-22 is going to show that he was the primary culprit on that first long Derrick Henry run where Cole Bishop ultimately took the hand of the face.
Yeah, will all the Jack Campbell lovers please stand up? All the people that were praying for him to be the Bills' first-round pick a couple years ago. Jack Campbell also did not have a great game against the Packers today, for the reasons of why you have Terrell Bernard, might I add. So, it's safe space revealed. This is one of those games where I even sit there and I go, man, this is where I wish Dorian Williams was a little bit more of an impactful player. And he was out there in packages, of course, a bunch. And you need a guy like him who's a downhill tackler. And he did okay. I don't think he had a great game. There's a reason he had 4 solo, 5 total tackles, though. He was obviously involved. And one of those, 2 of those could have even been from special teams. But regardless, he was out there defensively doing a lot. The Bills do recognize that they have smaller guys, that they need to then have certain package sets when you have the big bully Ravens coming into town, and they know they can outsize you. It's like a smaller Big 12 team going into the house of a big SEC team and just not understanding that those fatties over there and those people can dominate the line of scrimmage a lot more than you're used to. So you need to adjust things and have different personnel to do things to contain these things and stop things. That doesn't come from anywhere personally. So it's this game. Yeah, it's not Terrell Bernard's greatest. It was not. But the asterisk to that is I'm not sitting here expecting him to have a strong game. No. This is a Ravens team that it's like, no, Terrell Bernard's going to look silly. Like, you're going to have him getting bullied left and right. Linderbaum's going to be in his face nonstop, like things like that. Like there was one play, speaking of Linderbaum, and I think it was the Zay Flowers touchdown, or I know that one was a tackle center pull, but I don't think that's the one I'm thinking of. But anyways, there was one where it was another one where Milano's getting blocked, and my buddy goes, oh, maybe illegal block in the back. I'll be like, that's ticky tacky. And I was like, that's the center getting out there to do that. It's like, just like, God, that's what you're dealing with the Ravens, though. The point here is like, they are moving these big bodies everywhere, and that's creating chaos at the line of scrimmage, which they are winning. And on top of it, you have no big body answers to slip through the cracks, reach out, have that 6'5", 6'6" reach that's getting in there and at least slowing things down. Yeah, this was one where it's like Tremaine Edmonds in there, or a guy of his caliber, would be nice. But you just got to score more points than the other team, Josh. That's all you got to do. And thank God they did.
The Bills are in a unique situation where they, like the rest of the league, really have built their defense small, speed. It's a passing league these days. But in matchups like the Ravens, the Eagles, the Bills are going to look small. And just when you look at the league, like you're probably going to have to go through both of those teams to win a Super Bowl. Luka, I think there's a good chance that the best play in this game was made by a future Hall of Famer that's not named Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Derrick Henry. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Ooh.
A lot happened in this game. I'm trying to catch you off guard.
The best play that's not by the big 3 that are absolutely wearing gold jackets.
And this one I think is going to go wear a gold jacket. Although I will say, like, his career was on a gold jacket arc and then it kind of quickly fell off. So.
Ooh. That just threw me for another loop. You're just going to have to go on that one.
DeAndre Hopkins, one-handed catch over Benford.
He's fringe, but boy.
Catch, yeah, so like, I think if DeAndre Hopkins had either stayed in Houston and Deshaun Watson doesn't go off the rails, or had maybe another couple years with Kyler, but then they kind of started realizing like he doesn't have as much left in the tank, he's a borderline Hall of Famer. That catch, that was another one of those moments where you're just like, it's just not our night. Their great players are making great plays, and he is not a great player anymore, but he still has that in him. And it's like, okay, you have Mark Andrews, you have Derrick Henry, you have Zay Flowers, you have Bateman, and oh, by the way, you have DeAndre Hopkins who can do that. And then we watch Josh Palmer, who ends up making a massive play on the last drive of the game. And I'm just like tweeting nonstop about how like, hey, that incomplete pass to Josh Palmer, don't worry, folks. There's going to be a PFF graph that says he was open on the play. I did that. So I have so many regrettable Josh Palmer tweets out there, but you'd be proud of all of them. They were so bad. I was in a bad headspace.
Uh,
Oh man, but that catch by Nuke Hopkins, I mean, you're right. This game is just the poster child for um, watch this league. Okay, Matt Prater.
dog.
You know a little bit about him from being a Arizona Cardinal fan as your team B. Let's have a real Matt Prater conversation here. And the Bills, I think, are gonna have to make a decision very quickly, as quickly as this week, because if you watch the rest of the league, which I know Luka did, I did today, there's a team in San Francisco that could end up having multiple games lost this year if they stick it out with their current kicker, Moody, who 2 years ago was a beast and then just forgot how to kick. He did everything he could today to lose that game in Seattle that they had no business losing. Matt Prater is currently on the Bills practice squad. Tyler Bass got put on injured reserve this weekend. If the Bills were to elect to keep him on the practice squad, then in theory, any team could sign him to their active roster. And I fully believe a team like the 49ers might say, we'll take him. So, Luca, I believe it was Air Raid who put this out. There's a lot of chaos on Twitter on game day. So I want to make sure I'm giving credit to the right one. It's a good thought, though. The Bills are going to have to add him to their active roster and figure out something else with that last roster spot, because this is a guy that, at least for the next 3 weeks, and quite honestly, maybe beyond, they cannot be without.
A comment was said, and I love football's back, Josh. One of my favorite things to start with or even lean into is something was said in the family room, Josh. The comment was said during the game, and my buddy looks over to me and goes, "What's Prater's range? What do you think?" Because he knows, obviously, of all individuals that are, I'm comfortable knowing of recent what his range felt like. And I said, I was like, honestly, just get it inside the 40. And he's like, a 57 yarder. I'm like, you can hit it.
His legs that big, really?
Oh yeah. I think I would have been a lot more comfortable 4 years ago with him hitting that.
Yeah.
I do think if you needed to, like, and you're like, hey, game's on the line, and he's gonna pull his groin probably swinging this, Josh. Yes, he could still hit that. And then even you heard it on the broadcast, at that direction, he was hitting 53 yarders, which tells you basically he was game planning ball at the 35. So it's not like I'm far off. Prater's obviously, he at one point held the record or even was tied for the record when he was kicking in Denver. Of course, everyone knows kicking in Denver is a wonderful, or he's kicking for the Lions in Denver, whatever it was. He kicked it in Denver. I think he played for Denver at one point, didn't he? I think he did all
I think he did. He's been all over the place.
Yeah. But in Arizona, the one thing I was curious about, Josh, if we want to film breakdown of a kicker, I was concerned of one thing with Matt Prater going into this game. And it wasn't that he was just signed off the street. It wasn't any of that. Late on in his career with the Cardinals, he was starting to hit this cut ball. And what I mean by that is, for anyone that doesn't understand when I say that, he was cutting across the ball with his foot, which, if you understand like golf, you cut across the face of a ball cut across the ball with the face of the club. It creates spin and does something to the ball. When he was doing this, it would really put a lot of movement, but then like straighten out where he wants it. So he was playing with this intentionally to kick it the way that he wanted. Well, the problem is you're doing that. Why that worked was you're doing it a lot of times in Arizona, of course, and things like that. And then when you would see him kick in Seattle or whatever it was, there would be one or two, Josh, that, the wind would make it react in a way that's unpredictable. And because you're already putting a little bit of spin, as someone that golfs or anyone else understands, of course, it'll exemplify or exaggerate what is going on and make it a negative result. So I was concerned in Buffalo what that would look like. He was not kicking that way. and I was like, oh, Prater's just hitting straight balls. I like this. I like this a lot. And going back to what I said, the comment in the living room was there. The follow-up to that comment, Josh, was, I'm more comfortable, like, and this is not me, I'm more comfortable, I feel like, with Prater in this position than Bass. And I looked at him, I was dead in the face and said, been there, done that. Yep. I've been there this whole game. When I'm not rooting for an injury, of course, and Bass being hurt sucks, but like Prater, I didn't actually know Prater got signed, Josh, until this morning when randomly it came up in conversation. And I was like, wait a second, the Bills signed Matt Prater? For me to miss that, first off, I'm very disappointed in myself. But two, I was like, oh, I love that. Like, Prater's here. This is sweet. Like, I like that leg. Prater's got a leg. Prater is known to hit bombs. Prater's going to get talked about tomorrow on the McAfee show for a multitude of reasons, because McAfee even has a great respect for how Matt Prater kicks balls.
Mm-hmm.
And to do what he did today is incredible. I also made a comment after the game that I was like, he gave a shout out to Reed and the punter, blanking on the name, for holding and the team and blah, blah, blah. And I made a joke saying he loves Reed Ferguson because the long snapper in Arizona, boy, he sucked. And like, he just didn't know how to spit, because these guys can control the spin of a ball enough to make sure it's routine and consistent and things like that. The guy he had late in Arizona was sure as shit not doing that, because he would have some wild ones. But I digress. Matt Prater is someone that future outlook for the Bills. You ride the hot foot. You just you do it. Like, here you go. Like, welcome to the active roster.
It's very late, folks.
Bass is going to remain on IR.
Yeah.
Until you fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
You're our guy. And Prater, being as someone that was just sitting on the couch, should fully understand that is where his job lies. Like, it's like, you keep making kicks right now, you're our guy. Like, that's as simple as that. Because guess what? You can stash Bass on the IR. You cannot stash Prater on the practice squad.
Mm-mm.
It's as simple as that. Like, you have the ability right now to do something like that. You do it. So it's just as simple as that.
When the Bills got the ball back, I'm doing the same thing your buddy's doing. I'm thinking, man, I wonder what his range can be, because it's all of it. It's what's the operation like with Robbins? How many reps do they actually have together as holder? First time Robbins holding in this stadium, and now Prater's kicking in this stadium. All this stuff, and let's not lose sight of the fact they had to execute all of that with a running clock with 30 seconds left. I was not overly comfortable with that, but early in that drive, they show Prater on the sideline. And the Bills are not remotely in field goal range yet. So you're thinking it could be a 56-yarder. You don't know. It could come down to Prater's foot, though. And I'm thinking, man, the guy just got signed off the street. Like, he knows, like, if he makes this kick, he's going to have a job in the league. He's got to be nervous. They showed him on the sideline. He looked like he was chilling at the pool. There was not a concern in his world, Luka. It was like, it reminded me of Kyle Orton when he was the Bills quarterback. Just
Nice.
absolutely did not care whatsoever, and I mean that as the ultimate compliment. He's like, "Been there, done that. Just get me in range and I'll be just fine." And when I saw that, I was like, "Huh, I feel really confident." I don't know why I feel confident. I can't tell you that I've ever sat here and, like, been emotionally tied to a Matt Prater kick before, but I feel pretty good about the fact he's gonna make it. And look, kickers are a lot like closers in baseball. When you're a fan of the team and that kicker or closer has been there for a long period of time, you remember the misses. You remember the blown saves way more than you do, oh, he just made a 25-yarder. Oh, he just, went 1-2-3 against the Pirates in June. But you remember the bad moments. So now every time Bass steps up to kick, we're all thinking back to that Kansas City Chiefs playoff game. I think Bass has been mostly good for the Bills. I would not say he's been great. I think there was a point in time when I thought he had the trajectory of being one of the best kickers in the sport. I don't know that he's there right now. He had the massive game winner against Miami last year. Bass was absolutely nails in the playoffs last year. He absolutely deserves to be this team's kicker. But to Luca's point, if Prater takes this now 3 more games at minimum and doesn't miss and just brings this calm approach, it's gonna be a tough decision for the Bills, because Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane know they have to get it done this year. And if they feel great every time they run this kicker out there, who he didn't have a 60-yarder today, but everything about what he did just breathed calm. And we don't need to get too far ahead of ourselves. There's enough that we don't have to, like, generate conversation. But I do think, Luca, the larger point is he needs to be on the roster this week because somebody will scoop him up.
A perfect little sprinkle. I had to look this up because I was very curious. Game-winning field goals all time. Game-winning field goals all time. If you had to guess, I'm easy layup. Here, I'll give you a softball. Who's number one, Josh?
Morton Anderson.
Oh my God, Jesus! You really screw that up? No, it's
Is
Adam
it?
Vinatieri.
Oh, I just figured it's somebody that played in the league till he's like 50. Like, oh,
Well,
Vinatieri did that
Vinatieri
too.
did,
Yeah, he's the
and
okay.
he's
So
the most clutch kicker of all time too. So, anyways,
Vinatieri.
Vinatieri has 193. Looking down the list, you don't have to go very far. Matt, I was just curious because he's been around for a long time. I mean, they said was his 17th year in the NFL now because he signed. Matt Prater has 109. He's 13th all time in game-winning field goals.
Hmm.
He actually has been there, done that, and it's crazy. He's made 410 in his career. I mean, this is a guy. It's an experienced leg in a weird way, Josh. The Bills signing a dude who looked like homeless at one point on camera
Mm-hmm.
might be the strongest at kicker they've been in the Josh Allen era. That's
I
a
mean,
weird thing to think.
he couldn't even be bothered to get a haircut before the game.
No,
He had like
like
a
the hair was
mullet.
like, oh.
It was just, oh God. But he was so calm. Like he was just comfortable in his own skin.
And if anyone caught it, because there's of course, team cannot supply smelling salts now to the NFL. In that time with the clock winding, Josh, for anyone else, and I want you to go back. He rips the smelling salts with like 12 seconds winding on the clock as he's in his motion doing his pre-field goal routine, tosses it to the side. That is as cool, collected, and geared up, ready to go as you can be in a very stressful situation when you were 5 days prior probably worrying about whatever else in your daily life was going on. And mad props to Prater to just drilling that and probably just going, no, it's fun. Business as usual. I'll be back next week, I guess.
Luka, you want to do a live show this Wednesday?
Oh, I would love nothing more, Josh.
Let's do it because I think we could probably talk for about 2 more hours about this game, and then, then we don't even have to spin it forward to the Jets. I think we focus all the energy on the Jets. Could the Bills possibly be, like, so high from this game? All that stuff. What do the Jets look like in their game? I'm very excited. We're gonna be back Wednesdays for our live show. What time are we thinking we're gonna go live, Lucas? 7 Eastern?
7 Eastern, people. 6 Central for the Josh people of the world. 7
Yeah.
Eastern.
7 Eastern. We're going to be live. Come hang out, ask us questions in chat. Maybe we'll try as the season goes on to get some guests on and we'll have some fun with it. We'll have the first injury report for the week as long as it's a Sunday game. There will be some Thursday games or a Thursday or 2 game in there where the Bills are actually like playing the next day. That'll be a good time. So, all right, Luka, let's do game balls and game checks because we're almost at the hour mark. I feel like we could talk forever, but game ball. Do we need to have a game ball conversation? Are we just going to both sit here and talk about how amazing Josh Allen is? Or do we want to do that thing where we say, look, we know who the most important Bill was, but that's not necessarily interesting podcasting. So at this point, do we need to just retire the ability to choose Josh Allen? What do you think, Luka?
Yeah, I think it's time. This, if there wasn't about 50 other examples previous to this game on to do this, it is. We're in a new season. It's week 1 of the NFL. The game ball segment is now officially the JA17 honorary next best important person game ball.
Mm-hmm.
We'll work on the title to make it a little bit shorter and sweeter. We're doing this in live
Rolls
time.
right off the tongue.
Rolls right off the tongue. But yes, we are officially going to state game balls can no longer be Josh Allen because when push comes to shove, Josh, 17, that guy is the most important individual. And apparently he's going to come through more than not. It feels like. So, yeah, the can't take the absolute layup. Have to dig a little bit deeper when we're doing this. I will lead off. Gave a nice pause there. Dramatic pause. Look, we have criticized this individual a lot. This individual has not shown up in games of this style way too much, especially for what hits his bank account. It feels like at times, which all due respect is not fair to judge an individual solely based on what they're earning. That is something that they most likely, in all seriousness, have deserved and that the team agreed they are worth. So you can't just sit there and be like, well, now you make this, so you have to be better. It's like, okay, you're still paying the player for who he is. But he also has deserved some criticism because this is the game that he goes invisible. This is the game that he just cannot make the impact that you want, especially from someone who is drafted in the top 10 of his draft and fell to you, mind you, because another team took Clellan Ferrell over him.
He's still
But
in the league, by the way. I learned that this week.
he
I don't
can't
know
be.
where he's at. He was one of the players that got cut and signed to a practice squad.
That's crazy.
Good
Wow.
for him.
Fun fact. Um, Ed Oliver, if there was a time to have you have officially graduated from Mr. Thanksgiving to
Mhm.
impact player. Like
Yeah.
you are just impact player now. This was by miles far
Mhm.
your best run defending performance you have ever put on tape for the Buffalo Bills. This was unbelievable. And I say this, mind you, he's probably this close to being that guy without the fumble. Then the fumble happens, and you're like, oh. And even watching that replay, Josh, he's not at any moment in time trying to tackle Derrick Henry. He has two hands on the ball.
Mhm.
He's doing one thing and one thing only. He's ripping at that ball. He's like, I see a ball, I see brown leather, and that thing needs to hit the damn ground. And he absolutely does everything possible while falling because of block to get that ball loose and does so successfully in the absolute dire moment that something needs to happen. And remember this is the only turnover of this entire game for either side. And the
Good point.
one person that made that happen is 91 in blue. And it was just like, thank you. Thank you, Ed Oliver, for showing the F up when we needed you, and not just because you're pinning your ears back and doing the fun thing of rushing the passer. No, we need you to get dirty. And you are technically undersized for your position, and you're still breaking through and making an impact. You're doing things. You have that sack on Lamar early. You're doing things. You're making plays possible. You are the second leading tackler on the Bills for a defensive tackle. That is it, for a defensive tackle that also allowed over 200 yards rushing, mind you. You still are the second leading tackler on the defense. Number one was Christian Benford, which is also very strange. It is just like, thank you, God, that you have finally hit that second gear. And quick shout out. There is a big little fan of Ed Oliver that I met in Indianapolis last year before the game. And me and my buddy Joel, who was also with me, shout out Joel, we kept saying when Ed Oliver was making plays, and of course after the game, we're like, he's very little, Josh, so I'm almost sure he was not watching the game. But if he was, he has the greatest reproduction of doing the celebration, and he kept doing it in the bar pregame in Indianapolis. And we were sad when we were at that game. We never got to see him do that and celebrate with Ed Oliver. He's celebrating tonight, Josh.
Oh,
He'll be
yeah.
celebrating tomorrow in school. This kid is going to be loving life because Ed Oliver, you get my JA17 blah, blah, blah game ball, and you absolutely, like, you have the clear argument to be maybe above Josh Allen. You're not, but maybe above, because that fumble and every play you made was so big on a day when no one else on that defense, it felt, could do anything impactful.
For the Bills to get where we want them to get to, we know Josh Allen has to play at a super high level for those playoff games. Ultimately, though, another route would be if there's more superstars on this team. How does that happen? Well, they could go out and trade for somebody like a Micah Parsons, or like last year, trade for Amari Cooper and have it work out, or trade for a Rasul Douglas, and that was a good trade. I wouldn't say he was ever a superstar, but he was a very impactful player. The other way it could happen, Luca, is players get better over the course of a season. And you start looking at some of the players on the Bills. I think Rousseau is kind of like at that tail end of how much better can he get? Do we know what he is? But you can still hold that hope he can get better. Maybe Benford, there's like I don't think anybody would call him a superstar, but he's just very good. And maybe he can ascend to great. I mean, boy, Cole Bishop. Um, I don't even wanna laugh about it, but, like, the kid needs reps, okay? The kid need reps. We gotta live through the pain right now. Um, But I do think that come January, a full season of reps for Cole Bishop is the Bills' best plan right now for safety. That's a long way of saying that I think a lot of people forget that Ed Oliver has gotten better these last couple of years. He did come into the league in 2019, so it's kind of strange to be like, okay, he's going into his 7th year. How much better is he actually going to be? But I think we've seen some growth out of him, both maturity, which was an issue off the field for him, but when you see these guys go into leadership roles, I mean, Deion Dawkins got a lot better in the last couple of years, I think, as well. That's a guy at Oliver. He's not gonna have 17 sacks. He's not gonna have that many splash plays every week. But if he can bring this kind of intensity and bring this kind of consistency and become one of those guys on the interior that you have to game plan for, the simplest way to put it, when the Eagles played the Cowboys, the Thursday night opener, Chris Collinsworth was on the call when Jalen Carter got thrown out before the first play. And he goes, "That's the guy you have to double team every play. And you just made the defense's job so much easier because now they don't have to double team any certain person. They can actually double team whoever they want based on the way the play is, or made the offensive jobs easier. The Bills don't have that guy that requires a double team. There are 3 guys on this defensive line right now that I think could become that guy. Greg Rousseau, Joey Bosa if he stays healthy, and the Ed Oliver we saw tonight. TJ Sanders, Deion Walker, they are pups. Maybe they develop into that. That would be fantastic this year. But the 3 guys I just named all have that chance. The Ed Oliver we saw tonight requires double teams. The Ravens have a weakness at guard. You need this kind of play out of Ed Oliver, and what a good first step. We already talked about the guy that's going to get my game ball. It's going to be Matt Prater. Again, coming in off the street, windy stadium, new holder, having to rush the operation out there. I love what he did at the end of both halves, essentially. And just, he made 3 field goals, multiple extra points. The Bills needed every single one of those points tonight. And, Matt Prater, job well done, and excited that he's here with the Bills and see what goes on. Some shout outs. Keon Coleman probably deserves a little bit of love. I thought Dorian Strong played very well for a rookie in his first game. I thought Brandon Codrington played well. There was that one decision to let the ball bounce and it set the Bills up on the 1-inch line, but there was also a play where he should have called a fair catch and he didn't. And it was like, how did he catch the ball? Because he got absolutely smacked and then got bent backwards. Um, I'm happy they kept Brandon Codrington because you can already kind of see that with the new kickoff rules, having an explosive kickoff returner is going to be helpful. Luka, which defensive player are you going to give your game check to, or any player in general?
I mean, defense wasn't even where my head was at, honestly, Josh. I don't know.
I want to hear it. Let's go.
No. I will say, like, even on your point, you've mentioned it multiple times, like Dorian Strong did have an overall strong game. There's going to be a lot of random blame thrown out there on the one big Zay Flowers play, where it was a classic, just overload mesh one way, sneak Zay Flowers underneath the other way. And the guy on his coverage, because they recognize man, which is exactly what you should do with man to keep it easy, is he got lost in the shuffle. He's tailing behind. Look, it could be whoever the heck you want it to be on Zay Flowers in that moment. He's getting caught up in the coverage. Zay Flowers springs free. Lamar hits him perfectly. It's a big play. Like that's just how that play design works. And they recognize coverage and they hit it exactly how they wanted to. So I just wanted to get that out there, that there's probably even going to be some comments or individuals that believe that to be, well, he had that, he gave up that, Josh. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, geez. No, there's a few guys that kind of stand out to me. I will add this before I name a name. It's not as easy as I would expect, giving up 40 points and looking as awful on defense as they did. Because even each player on defense, I think, just had a bad moment or two, but the problem was they each did. Like that's where I get, like, even Joey Bosa, his impact was definitely felt tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And he also is the core reason that Lamar was able to spring free and pick up the yardage that he did. And then next play, Derrick Henry runs it into for a long touchdown. Like he is stumbling, I believe. So, like, I'm not going to cut complete flack, but Gregory Rousseau is doing exactly what he needs to do in that moment. Do not lose your feet. Stay vertical. Keep containing him, essentially. Make him just throw the ball away because it's either that or take this massive sack. And then Joey Bosa's just stumbling in and just swipes at the feet, kind of takes Rousseau a little bit out of it. And Lamar goes, "Oh, hey, look, a world-class athlete with a free lane. Thank you." It's like, oh,
Mhm.
son of a bitch. Bosa, don't do that. And there's
Whenever
other
the
times.
Bills play against Lamar, we get to experience what it's like to go against Josh Allen, by the way.
Yeah,
I'll put that out there.
that is good. Like, and Collinsworth made another comment where Bosa early on shifts way too far in, and it's like, have you ever played Lamar Jackson before? Like, buddy, like, I don't care if you leave a 1.5 person lane inside of you. Keep him inside. Like, there are more people closer to help there. So everyone kind of, and then Bosa did have good plays too, mind you. So again, it's harder than you would expect. But my head honestly just goes to it just, the safeties are obviously where my head goes. And Taylor Rapp, to me, for an individual that registered 6 total tackles, 4 solo, his impact was far less than what the stats even show. And it felt like the only time I'm looking at Taylor Rapp, it's because what he's doing just feels so wrong. Like, it's just not where you need to be. You're misreading the thing. And on top of it, one of their touchdowns, I can't recall which one. There were just so many. Taylor Rapp is it's like playing Madden or college football where you pass commit on a run play and you watch your safety just run the other way, like dropping back. I can't remember which. It was one of the Derrick Henry touchdowns, I'm pretty sure, but it was just like, Rap, what are you doing? Like, what are you seeing off the snap that's telling you as play is progressing this way, you're gonna drop that like this way, like you're going back and opposite, and then all of a sudden you recognize what you're doing wrong, and because of that 2-3 steps you took, wide open acres for whoever to just jog their way in. It just, Rap was an individual today that when you know there were going to be eyes on the safety position, and the eyes were going to be more towards your partner being Cole Bishop, I think Rap stood out for some bad reasons. And ultimately, to me, it's just, I think he feels like my game check kind of candidate. So I'm going to go with Taylor Rapp.
I have ESPN on my TV up here, and they're showing highlights of the Bills game, obviously, because I think they just replay SportsCenter overnight. And I either just saw a unique angle of it or just did not realize it in lifetime. That felt like that field goal was very close to getting blocked. And now
No, it absolutely was. It was very, very close.
I went back and found a replay of it on Twitter. 14 for the Ravens. I'm not even sure who he is.
Kyle Hamilton.
Oh, that's Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah.
He goes unblocked and gets right through the gap and gets like, he jumps through the gap, which is the only reason why he didn't get blocked. So he lost his momentum, had to regain his speed, gets his hand up, and from this angle, from the TV angle, it looks like it may have even grazed his pinky. And you can tell by his reaction when it goes through, he is furious with himself. Holy cow.
Yep.
What an ending that would have been. A game of inches. Um, I I think there's 2 names that make sense for this game check. I'm glad you said Taylor Rapp. Mine's gonna be Terrell Bernard. Um, I I know you're an IDP guy when it comes to fantasy,
Oh
and
yeah.
if I told you there was a game where one team would have 30 rushing attempts and, 233 rushing yards, you'd be saying, well, whoever that middle linebacker for the other team probably had like 12 tackles. No, Terrell Bernard had 3. And I know tackles are just kind of one of those stats that don't tell the whole story, but holy cow, middle linebacker in a run heavy game plan. I need you to be more impactful than that. Um, Terrell Bernard, I get it. There's gonna be certain opponents where he's really going to shine. It's gonna be I think he'll be better against teams like the Bengals and teams like the Lions where they wanna spread you out. Now they can run the ball too, but I think even next week against the Jets, Terrell Bernard could look a little bit rough out there. And in a run heavy system, I need more from my middle linebacker. You made the only other he's the only captain on this team that's not named Josh Allen, and he got a second contract. And I think he is overrated by Bills fans. And I don't mean that as a slight. I think he is a pretty good player. He's a pretty good player that is a great leader. But I don't know that he's ever going to be a great player because I do think he's limited physically. He has a nose for the splash play. You could say the same thing about Taylor Rapp. But
Yeah.
tonight, I felt like the Bills needed quite a bit more from their middle linebacker, especially when you saw some of the plays that Roquan Smith was making out there. Holy cow. He might be the gold standard at the position. So, I mean, that's a lot to ask for. Hey, quickly, Luca, what did you think about Lamar Jackson shoving the fan?
Hot take. I hate how much fans that close try to be involved.
Yes.
I think it's cringe. I think it's dumb. Like the mindset it feels of individuals that sit in places where that opportunity might present itself feel, I hate the word entitled because I think that also just has a weird connotation, especially for this, but they feel that it's their right to be more involved because they're there. And I'm not talking about, I hate it when fans are, using they're using that access to the wall to bang at it a little bit more, maybe even get some camera time. That's all like that's what you should be there for. Like you're there to watch the game, experience the game. You have these prime seats that you have probably spent a lot of money or just have owned them for long or what, know the right people, whatever it is, to sit there. And you have the right to deserve it from those great seats. You have no right to try to get involved with these athletes and smack them on the helmet. And then on top of it, probably have a reaction that's like, yo, what the F, like be upset with Lamar shoving you back. Should Lamar do that? No. Like you have to try to be the bigger person. But I say that because it's like, I don't blame Lamar one. Like Lamar's reacting as normal individuals would, where it's like get your hand, like you just walked by someone and you just got whacked in the head. You have a helmet there, mind you. It's not like you're getting physically assaulted or anything by any stretch. But dude, that's what the F are you doing? What
Mhm.
what do you believe gives you the right to feel like you can do that in that moment? Like player jumps into stands for celebration purposes. I'll give you a little bit more leeway.
Pour your beer on him if you
Pour your
want
beer
to.
on him.
Yes.
Yeah, like that's fine because he entered your territory. But he's not jumping over the wall. He's not even approaching you and starting the altercation. You are going above to do something like that. And I'm very curious to hear what Lamar's comments are on it and stuff. And I'm sure it'll be a little bit more refined. I'm sure a PR individual even gave him like, hot words to say and, apologize in a certain extent and blah, blah, blah. But I, even when it happened and they even replayed it and stuff, I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with fans doing that kind of stuff? Like, dude, just don't be involved. Like, that is not what you're there to be. Dude, that's not who you should be. Like, I just think it's ridiculous when fans try to involve themselves a little bit more than really what you should be. Like, just imagine like hockey games. Just imagine an imaginary glass there and you would not be reaching in and doing like there's camera holes at hockey games, Josh. You don't see one individual put their hand in there to try to touch a player if there's like board work and stuff. It's like, no, like there is a wall there. Do not cross that barrier. You are there to enjoy the game as best as you can, as and have as much fun as you want. That's fine. Like within the confines of your seat and where you are sat. Like, don't try to do that. Like it's just, I think it's childish and dumb and just like that. F that fan. Like I'm not sitting here saying, ban him for life or anything. Like, look, it's a slap on the helmet. Like it's not like he racially abused or did anything to even remotely close to that. But
Yeah.
I just think it's dumb. Like on the fan's part. I personally blame the fan more than I blame Lamar reacting or anything of that nature.
Yeah, I don't blame Lamar at all. I hope nothing happens to him. I think there's like you said, you're at the game to watch the game, cheer loudly, make noise, but don't touch the players. That should never happen unless they come into your territory and then they kind of ask for it. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't hope Lamar doesn't get anything for that. Luca, let's get out of here. It has been a fun post game show. What a way to start the year. These Bills are 1-0, and what we will harp on Wednesday is what we talked about this offseason is we both thought this was going to be a Bills loss. And our thing was, and that's probably okay because look at the schedule following this game.
Yeah.
The schedule is still there. The rest of the AFC East lost, a couple of them in hilarious fashion. The New England Patriots, who we thought were gonna be like, and they still could be. It's game 1. Week 1 is a liar, as Luka likes to say.
Mhm.
Um, the New England Patriots lost at home to the Raiders. The Dolphins got absolutely blown out by the Colts, could not have looked more anemic offensively. In fact, my prevailing thought leaving that game is which one of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are gonna be the next Kansas City Chief this season to replace Xavier Worthy if he has to miss time. Um, the division appears to be as large of a gap as ever. Um, I had one more thought I wanted to say before I get out of here. I have been listening to WGR since 2004, I think 2005, whenever they started putting their segments on like they didn't always have the whole show available, but they'd put little segments out there. Jeremy White would often come on during the drought and say, it's like the Bills aren't even playing the same sport as the good teams. Like, we would watch the Bills in the 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock window play the Jets and win a game like 12-6, or have a game where Mark Sanchez throws 6 interceptions and the Bills still have to win in overtime. And then you'd go watch Sunday Night Football that the Bills were never on unless they lost 56-10 to New England. Um, and they would be Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger against Colts, or
Yeah.
Peyton Manning against Tom Brady, or Aaron Rodgers against Tony Romo. And it was just like, they're not even playing the same sport. Like, these teams are out here scoring 30, throwing for 300 yards, and I'm supposed to be excited that JP Lossman threw a game-winning touchdown pass against the Houston Texans to Peerless Price. Like, what am I doing right now? What am I doing with my life? Now there's some fan in Seattle. Just got done with Geno Smith of his quarterback. Now he's got Sam Darnold. Watches his team lose a game today to the Niners where they scored 10 points. Just like, what am I doing? And then he turns on Sunday Night Football and sees that. They're not even playing the same sport, and we're the team that makes people feel bad about it. I sometimes have to pinch myself, like you, as somebody who lived through that entire drought and soaked in so much of it emotionally, that this is our existence. Ultimately, we absolutely need this Josh Allen era to have a Super Bowl ring to really hit that pinnacle. But there are just so many moments that have come since Josh Allen became the Bills quarterback, Luca, that if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have said that's never going to happen to the Bills. That's just not who they are. They're a small fish in a big pond, and they're kind of just lucky to have a team. And I'll just hope they make the playoffs some year.
The Bills in 2018 chose the right Josh, I think. I think, and I say that tongue in cheek because, as you are very well aware, I was in the minority among this area and individuals that were Bills fans who felt the other Josh of that draft was the answer to everything. And I remember even at one point, Josh, I love this because it kind of ties in. I remember even at one point sitting at a bar, and the memory is vivid, like softly, but yet firmly in my head. Remember having a conversation with some buds and being like, do you want to keep doing the same thing? Like, if you want to keep doing the same thing, you draft Josh Rosen. If you want to like finally get out of this, like we just made the playoffs, in 2017 and blah, blah, blah. Like everything of like that's happened. And it's like, if you really want to get out of this loop, you don't draft Josh Rosen. You don't draft Sam Darnold. There are these other guys there that could be there for the Bills. And I was number one for me was Baker Mayfield. And I'm not saying like, I mean, I did like him the most, but I also ranked it in like a Bills mindset, Cardinals mindset at the time, where in my head, the number one overall pick was Josh Allen. Like I was like, athletic freak. Look, there's question marks, things like that. But if Cleveland wants a guy that's like, look at this stud, look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen was 2. Lamar Jackson, the Heisman winner, most dynamic player I felt like I had ever seen in college football at quarterback, was 3. Then Sam Darnold, then a flaming pile of shit to quote Moneyball, and then Josh Rosen.
So
And
Mason Rudolph and then Josh Rosen. Okay, gotcha.
I mean, anyone after these 5, I was like, I don't
Yeah.
give an F. The Mason Rudolph talk. Oh my God. I had one friend that's like, I like Mason. I'm like, if you give me Mason Rudolph right now.
I did not wait an entire offseason, watch them trade away Cordy Glenn and Tyrod Taylor to get Mason Rudolph.
Right. Do not do that. No. So I go back to that, and the Bills broke the cycle. They did. They took a shot on, and I, to be frank, when Josh Allen was sitting there, I was like, holy shit, like this is wild. And then even in my head, I was like, but Lamar Jackson would be really fun too. Like that's where my head was at. So sitting here now, funny enough, it's like, wow, like you couldn't have probably gone wrong. It feels like you would have very different looking teams, of course, on either side or whatever else was going on. The Ravens don't have Lamar Jackson. The Ravens are probably in a much different place. They don't move on from Joe Flacco, blah, blah, blah. But it's like they broke the cycle. They took a chance on the intangibles and the things you cannot coach. And let's see what we can get the max out of this, because we like the player and we like the size and athletic freak. And when I say player, I should say the human, and then the player being everything that you cannot coach. And you have molded him, as we like to say at draft time. You took that ball of clay, Josh, and you molded him into a superstar MVP franchise quarterback, clutch machine. And he is clutch. Fuck the haters. He's not losing 13 seconds. He's not losing these playoff games. These are other things that are happening that are losing these games. Josh Allen is a clutch AF quarterback. Fuck the haters. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is beautiful. So yes, 1:00 slate, Josh. Saints Cardinals are on the main screen of all my screens watching this game. And it's Spencer Rattler trying to hit a last second touchdown, which I can't remember who the receiver was. Someone almost came down with one. Time runs out. They don't get it. Cardinals cover and win. Vibes are nice in my household. I'm like, we're back, baby. Let's go. And then it's like, you take that game and you put it up to this game. It's like, could you imagine being a Saints fan right now? Oh, God almighty. You just had to go through the Spencer Rattler experience, and the Cardinals gave you so many chances to win that game. I mean, so many. And you still couldn't do it. And then you watch Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen put on that show. You're like, I really need Arch Manning or, Nussmeier or one of these guys coming into this draft to be something, because this sucked. And we are going to be the first overall pick. This is brutal. We need light at the end of the tunnel. And I thank the Bills and Brandon Beane or McDermott. And I thank everyone for sitting there and understanding that the EJ Manuel, JP Lossman, Kelly Holcomb, Kyle Orton, like just go on. And like all these guys, Trent Edwards, God, thank you, Adrian Wilson, for ruining his career and just making not that one prolong. It's like, dude, we need to do something different. We need to find a franchise. We need to find a guy. And they took a shot on a guy that even after that draft, this area did not care for. And I had to sit quiet, Josh. I had to sit quiet with my excitement. And boy, that rookie year really tested it, because I heard some comments. You like this guy? Look, it's rough. I get it.
That play over your right shoulder, though, that was in our head.
It's like, you got to take the good and the bad. And thankfully for all of us now, he figured it out pretty damn quick. And next thing you know, he became an MVP. And we live in a wonderful world as Bills fans. And it's okay to feel bad for a lot of the other league, because there's a reason when you bet MVP, Josh, it's the big four and everybody. They should actually have odds. The big four, everyone else in the league. And those odds should honestly be like plus 120 for the big four, like minus whatever for everyone else. Because if you don't have Josh Allen, if you don't have Lamar Jackson, if you don't have Patrick Mahomes, and you don't have Joe Burrow, you already feel like you're a little bit behind the 8 ball, because those guys make this game feel different. And let's be honored and blessed that, holy shit, we have one of the best ones, if not the best one. And it would just be nice if this team could surround them with a little bit more talent, but at least we still pull out these wins. What a way to start the NFL season.
What an amazing draft that was too, because Josh and Lamar, obviously the tippy top of the sport, but Baker Mayfield, I think, is in
Oh,
everybody's top 10.
still love him.
And you just kind of look around the league, and you mentioned Joe Burrow, the team that lost to the Bengals today. I mean, such a good roster. Imagine if the Browns had a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. That would that would be. Can you imagine
Uh,
that existence?
and it's, fun, like, in thinking about just on that point, we're not trying to ramble on here, but it's just a fun conversation. The coach that decided to move on from
Mhm.
Baker Mayfield, although with a lot of ownership, influence, so I'm sure he wasn't exactly thrilled, but he went with it, is still the head coach there. So how
Yeah.
do you think he feels sitting there watching that game? And no disrespect to Joe Flacco, he kept them in it. He didn't really do anything too stupid, but he's Joe Flacco in his 40s. Like, you're not you're not gonna beat worlds with
No.
him under center. So yeah, you look at that roster and it's like, man, could you imagine like that guy who is hitting Emeka Egbuka for a game winner if he was our quarterback? Remember when he almost beat the Chiefs wearing our uniform in the divisional round and some bullshit fumble going out of the back of the end zone cost us that game? Remember that? You wanted to move on from that because this guy who had allegations against him still was an all-world talent at the time, but you knew everything was coming down the pipeline and you still had a franchise quarterback sitting there and wanted to move on from that. Mind-blowing. Although, in the credit of Baker Mayfield, he even talks about now how if it wasn't for Carolina and going to the lows of that with Matt Rule and Jesus, and then having that brief stint with McVay to really revitalize kind of his love for quarterback play. He has that crazy 24-hour turnaround game win against the Raiders and things like that. I think it was the Raiders. I'm pretty sure it's Raiders. Anyways,
It was.
and like has that and it rejuvenated him. He has that opportunity where they wanted him to follow up Tom Brady in Tampa, a fan base that basically as someone that sat in those stands, I'm pretty sure they don't even remember the Super Bowl that Tom Brady didn't win for them. It just felt like football didn't exist until Tom Brady was there. It's very weird fan base. You had to follow that up, and you are actually succeeding, and you are even people's dark horse pick to make the Super Bowl this year. Boy, Cleveland has to be just like, what the fuck did we do?
He had one of the best rookie seasons we've seen out of a quarterback.
Yep.
Year 2, he does what you said, took them, beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh to get that playoff win that they've been starving for when Stefanski wasn't even at the game, and
Mhm.
then was within an eyelash of beating the Chiefs and Arrowhead in the playoffs. And then the next year, Luka, he played hurt,
Yeah.
played through a terrible injury, but because he is such a dog, wanted to be out there for his teammates, and the Browns held his poor play against him and shipped him out of town. And
Crazy.
the history is gonna look back on this as, like, you always talk about, like, draft busts, like Ryan Leaf, Jamarcus Russell, maybe Anthony Richardson heading down that path, and it's like,
Oof.
what about the teams that don't realize what they have until it's gone? We've seen
Yep.
a couple examples of that. Jared Goff, a little bit different story because they got Stafford, they got the Super Bowl, so it's hard to look back on that, but Baker Mayfield, man, such a miss by the Browns in so many ways. And who knew that on a day where the Bills and Ravens play the best regular season game ever, we'd end up talking about Baker Mayfield. But here we are. The Bills will see him later this season. But for now, the Bills are 1-0. We look forward to a game this Sunday against the New York Jets. Luka and I will be back on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. for our Bills Chat Live, ready to dust that off. Excited to be back every Wednesday. No real major injuries coming out of this game. James Cook was dinged up a little bit. Obviously, like things will pop up tomorrow that we're not aware of. I know Spencer Brown had some stuff going on late in the game, but he was even in on the last field goal. So hopefully the Bills survive this game without any big injuries. Hopefully they can get a couple of guys back. Maybe Curtis Samuel will decide to be on the field next week. We shall see. But Bills are 1-0. Luka and I'll be back next week to break down everything Bills Jets. For Luka, I am Josh McCarty, and we will talk to you next time on Bills Chat.